Tell me, darling, could we run away? We could hide away by the cactus desert blue. I can see it just a mile away from this crowded place. I could lay there next to you.
So welcome back to another episode on our channel, Best Freaking Friends Forever. So we're going to continue today with our natural disasters that have occurred in West Virginia. So on this episode, we're going to be talking about the 1944 tornado outbreak that occurred here in West Virginia. And it hit other states too, but we'll be talking about the ones that hit West Virginia.
Yeah, it was an outbreak. There was 7 in the Appalachian area. There were 7 tornadoes total that night. So the first one touched down at 10:30 p.m. on June 22nd. That one, Royal Valley to Twin Rocks. The path of it was 30 miles. It was an F3 category. Is that what they say?
Mm-hmm. F3, yep. On the Fujita scale, yep.
Yeah. Then the next one hit at 11 on the 22nd, and that was Edinburgh to Palmyra, and it was 8 miles in length. It was an F2. At 11:11 that night, a third one hit, and that one did touch in West Virginia, touched in Preston County. It went from Wellsburg to Oakland, Maryland, and it was a length of 85 miles with an F4. The fourth one to hit that night was at 11:30 on the 22nd. It was from Pittsburgh to Somerset. The path length of it was 50 miles of an F4. The fifth one was at 12:30 a.m. on June 23rd. It went from Wyatt to Shinnston to Cheat Mountain. The length of it was 60 miles. It was an F4. Sixth one to touchdown was at 3:25 a.m. on June 23rd. It was in Thomas, West Virginia. It was only a mile long, thank goodness, and it was an F3, still kind of powerful one. And then the seventh and last one to touchdown was at 4:15 a.m., June 23rd. It was Cambridge to Delmar, and the path length of it was 28 miles long, and it was an F3. We're, like Shelley said before, we're just going to talk about 3 of them that touched in West Virginia, which was the 3rd, the 5th, and the 6th tornadoes of that night. The third one, the information that one just touched in Preston County. It was the first 3 major long-lived violent tornadoes. Was probably a tornado family, and I'll post a picture of what that kind of looks like, that began in West Virginia. The tornado family is a series of tornadoes spawned by the same supercell thunderstorm. These families form a line of successive or parallel tornado paths and can cover a short span of vast distance. The tornado touched down in Wellsburg, unroofing 20 homes and fatally injuring a girl on a farm nearby. The tornado killed 22 people in a 15-mile path across Greene County, leveling numerous homes, including 53 in the mining community of Cherders. There was 10 deaths there, each of east of Clarksville. I'm not familiar with any of these areas. The tornado killed 8 more people at Dry Tavern near Rice Landing and destroyed a total of 86 homes in Pennsylvania. After striking Dry Tavern, a tornado passed near Smithfield, then also called Smithville, before lifting for some time. Debris from the storm fell in nearby Uniontown. The tornado may have dissipated and redeveloped into a new tornado that crossed into Maryland, killing 3 people, injuring 25, and destroying 7 homes. So that one was, it just touched a little bit in West Virginia, but it still did a lot of damage.
I'm like 30 minutes from Shinnston, where I live. Like 28 minutes.
Yeah.
So this one was really... It was the most damaging one in West Virginia. Or produced, it was number 5. It was the 5th one. And it was the one that produced the most violent damage. And I think it was one of the bigger ones. It was an F4, which is crazy to think that West Virginia had an F4 tornado, because in West Virginia, we're not known for having a lot of tornadoes just because of our mountains. They usually hit the mountains and then they dissipate. Like, we don't usually get tornadoes, especially that large.
Yeah, that one. So it became, I have it wrote down here somewhere too. Out of the night, it was the biggest, deadliest one. And it spanned, at one point, they said it spanned a mile. That's how big around it was. And how they know that, like, you can look online and you can see a path of a tornado. And that's how they tell, is they'll see how big it was from the path it created. So yeah, what's a mile? Think about that, guys.
I mean, that has to be close to almost an F5, to be honest. Because I think they do it by the size and they do it by the destruction.
Yeah, 5,280 feet. A mile in time is equivalent to 9 to 10 minutes of walking.
Wow.
Yeah, so you have to think, so like if you start where the damage starts, like the path of it on one end, and then walk across, it would take you about 9 to 10 minutes to walk to the other side of it. That's kind of gives you a picture of what we're looking at here.
A total of 30 people died at Shinnston, and at least 104 were killed in the state just by the other two intense tornadoes that hit here. This was the most destructive natural disaster in the lives of property to occur in West Virginia as a result of these tornadoes. And 153 people lost their lives. This was about 9 miles from the Monongah mine, where in 1907 we also had a major disaster. Some 350 people lost their lives in that. And so this was like the greatest disaster in the state and the greatest mine disaster in history. So that's, it came, I think it said, this one, I have it came at 8:30 in the morning or in the evening from the northwest, a great black funnel shaped cloud. This is from, I looked up people telling the story about it, and they said it was like a big black, like funnel cloud. About traveling 40 miles per hour. Most persons seeing it thought that it would be a fire or smoke, some kind, until they noticed the heavy mass of debris, like timber and trees. Then they knew that it was the tornado.
That summer night still haunts many to this day. People talk about how yellow the sky was, some even saying that they thought the sky could be on fire until they noticed a heavy mass of debris traveling before the cloud. It only took 2 minutes for this tornado to impact West Virginians for many lifetimes. In total, West Virginia lost 103 people, 72 in Harrison County, 9 in Barber, 3 in Marion, 7 in Randolph. I mean, you guys look at a map. I'll try to find a map of us and show you all the different counties. It's just that's like Harrison County, like Shelley said. You said where this hit was 30 minutes from you. Is that right? Yeah, and Shelley and I are an hour apart. And when it hit in Randolph County, my home county, so outside of Randolph County is a little town called Montrose. And Montrose is about 10 out of town. It's still in Randolph County, but it's like you go into Randolph County, a lot of people know it for the festival. But if you go outside of the festival, about 10 miles towards Parsons, a tornado touched there. So you have to think, so Shelley's 30 minutes from where it started, and we're an hour apart, and then I'm another 30 to 40 minutes away where it ended, basically. That's how long and that's how big this thing was. But yeah, so 3 in Marion County had died, 7 in Randolph County, 846 people seriously injured, 1,686 families affected, and 404 homes destroyed. And then I talked to my dad last night, and he says that we have a family member, we're distantly related, but this family, I'm not going to give out names because I don't know how comfortable everybody is with that in my family. But he's a family member that would host our family reunions. He would get them organized and set up and everything. His father died. He was one of the 7 in Randolph County that died from the tornado. Shinnston was hit the hardest. Out of all the counties in our state, it got hit the hardest.
Well, and they were interviewing people that were back then, and I mean, we got to think, this is during World War II or after Mm-hmm. And they said they interviewed this man. He said the tornado itself came as a surprise, but they had a plan developed. This area had a plan developed in case the Germans bombed the city. And after the tornado struck, the same civil defense plan was utilized. So they really didn't even have a warning system to say, hey, this is coming. And I guess they used it was pretty much all hands on deck. Like the drugstores took supplies to the doctor's offices. They set up morgues in the churches. The doctors, pharmacists, and nurses, they all went to the doctor's offices. I mean, there were people who mobilized to drive their own vehicles to take patients to the Fairmont and Clarksburg hospitals. So, I mean, it was all hands on deck at that point. We didn't have a lot of tornadoes. We still don't. I mean, it's very rare that we have tornadoes here.
I think the worst we get is, like if you're going in that direction of natural disasters, is we get big gusts of wind. I mean, I know my husband came home from work one day and he sent me a picture, and our front tree in our yard had come down. and from, wind gust. And it literally was probably about 6 inches from our front porch. So we were very fortunate that it did not touch the house at all. But yeah, you were saying at 8:30. So I have at 8:30. See, the timeline doesn't match with some of the information I got. So at 8:30, a powerful tornado touched down in Marion County, northeast of Wyatt. It quickly intensified as it moved to the southeast, killing 3 people and 4 homes that were destroyed in Joetown. I've never heard of Joetown. Have you?
No, and I was reading that too, and then it went, killed, and then the neighboring Peoria.
Yeah. Over the next 10 miles, the tornado widened to the 1 mile across and killed at least 72 people. First, the funnel struck the farming community of Wyatt and killed 3 people in neighboring Peoria. It then devastated the town of Shinnston, killing about 39 in the Pleasant Hill part of town. Have you heard of that?
I've never heard of that. I guess it's a suburb of them. I've never heard of Pleasant Hill.
Yeah.
And I'll have to look that up now because.
Yeah. Numerous homes in Pleasant Hill were leveled and had their debris blown into the West Fork River. In the Shinnston area, bark was peeled from trees. A steel radio tower was broken in half. Vehicles were moved almost 100 feet from where they originated, and a large gas plant was leveled. Holy cow! In Taylor
County, yeah, or not in Taylor, but it was leveled.
Yeah, in Taylor County, the tornado killed 9 more people, including 7 in one family at Simpson. The tornado produced 9 other deaths in the near Meadowville, Nestorville, and Philippi. Once again, that's away from Shinnston. way away.
That's about 35 minutes, 40 minutes from Maine.
Yeah. The path passed near Montrose. Yep, 7 deaths, and ended north of Alpena. I don't know where that's at. I'll have to ask my family. On the slopes of Cheat Mountain. That's outside of Elkins. You're getting out over that way. 381 people were injured. The death toll was at least 100. Some sources indicated the 103 died.
Well, notice when they all came too. I feel like most of these natural disasters we're talking about came at night. You can't see anything, especially a funnel cloud. I mean, and the flooding. I mean, the 40s, or maybe it was the 85 flood that we're going to be talking about. But the flooding happened overnight too, and it's like. The water was rising and people didn't even know it. And same with this, funnel clouds forming and you don't even know it because some of these were late at night and you're asleep. Yep.
I'm super okay when there's a storm during the day. Like I love a good storm. Sometimes I'll go sit on my porch and I love how the air feels during a storm and the sound of the rain. Like I just love it. So I'll go sit on my porch underneath my awning, whatever, and just chill out. But at nighttime when I'm asleep and it's thundered so loud here that it will shake the house and wake me up, and I wake up instantly in a panic. Second to last tornado of the night was that this tornado was minor compared to the others that hit, with only a path of a mile long. It was still devastating to many. It took 3 lives and damaged or destroyed about 50 homes. So it still took out some stuff with it, even though it was short-lived.
And that was the Thomas one, right? And see, Thomas it's a small little town. Yeah. It's not a large town to begin with, really.
Such as bonds, checks, and papers were found 150 to 200 miles away. Yeah. We talked about that steel radio tower. It belonged to the police, the state police. It was broken in 2. A barn was blown away, leaving the horse in the stall uninjured. I've heard stories like this, like, Tornado Valley and stuff. You hear where like you and I could be sitting 10 feet apart and you could get picked up and I would still be sitting there like fine as can be.
Yeah. Well, that's like the houses and, they had this on one of the things I was watching about it. Well, I think this might've been on one of the flooding, but you see one side of the road and all the houses are there. And then you look on the other side of the street and they're all gone. Like they're leveled to like the foundation. And that to me is, like you said, just looking at how one house or one building or, can be untouched, compared to the other side. It's crazy.
Well, yeah, like this, it says a pig pen disappeared, leaving the pigs. How does that happen?
Well, they say horses run. Maybe I don't know. have
Right.
livestock.
There's a 2x4 beam blew straight through a cow. Yeah. A box containing $750. This was a neat little story. Was containing $750 in bonds and valuables, was carried miles away, and it was returned to its owner.
Wow.
Numbers of bodies were recovered from the West Fork River. One of them was 40 miles downstream. Believe it or not. So, like, if I tell you a story, believe it or not, the story about the tornado is that some people swear they saw straw blown through a concrete wall. You know, you look at the timeline, and I'm sure people were thinking, like, is this going to end?
Mm-hmm.
You know, 7 starting at 10:30 all the way to, I mean, that's almost 12 hours. Not quite.
Yeah.
But, well, if the one in Shinnston really did start around 8:30, so if you go from 8:30 to 4:15, that's...
Well, and it went 60 miles. I mean, depending on how fast. I mean, right, that one went 60 miles, and it was enough force. So, I mean,
Well, when you, like, it almost seems like a movie, you know? Like, the night that never would end type of thing.
Well, they have a book about that. I think it's called Tornado Terror, where there's just there was a movie. I think it had Devin Sawa in it, and it was basically it was called Night of the Twisters. Is what it was called, I think. And it was just basically one right like this. It was kind of like one right after the other, and it was just a perfect storm, so to speak, of the conditions for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure, like, if you were in that situation, you'd just be like, is this ever going to end? Like, are we going to be okay? It'd be really scary. The 1944 Appalachian Tornado Outbreak. Let us know if you have a story from that night. Sounds like a really scary night to be happening. And with tornadoes, you just never know where they're going to go, where they're going to end up, you know. I mean, obviously, look at these. I'll post pictures and things like that so y'all can see. I actually I found a map that shows the one in Shinnston where all it went to, and you can kind of see that. Just let us know. Comment below if you'd love for us to cover another storm, another natural disaster. We'd love to. I had fun doing these. I got in research mode and couldn't quit. But until next time, I'm Tiffany. This is my BFFF Shelley. Join us next time, friends, for another great episode.